Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So about a week ago, I made a video going over how long I think every single playoff team's window is in terms of being a good or high-level team in the NHL. And it kind of just got me thinking what the NHL is going to look like over the next decade in terms of some teams coming out of a rebuild, some teams probably going to need a rebuild relatively soon. So I decided to ask you guys in the form of a Google form over on my Instagram and Twitter. I posted about it, Mike Bartner on Twitter, MBN Hockey on Instagram. So we're going to go through your results. We are going to break it down. Here is the full form. I'm going to have it more like nicely set up. We're going to do a four-part 25 through 32, 17 through 24, 9 through 16, 1 through 8. But this is just the form, so you can see what it is. 773 results. Thank you. You graded the teams 1 through 5, 1 being probably not a lot of success this decade, 5 being they're going to be a contender for most of the decade. So without further ado, as you can see, put all 32 teams. Let's get into it. And up first, we have 25 through 32, or as I called the bad. Pittsburgh was pretty easily the worst, and it makes sense. I think at the bare minimum, they're probably going to stink for another 4 to 5 years unless they get like Gavin McKenna and then Landon DuPont, which knowing the NHL is probably likely. They're the team that right now is facing going into the true nuclear rebuild because their current core is so old. Kyle Dubas is clearly prioritizing the future. The last, basically since the Erik Karlsson trade for the most part, they're going to be going through it. My New York Islanders, understandably why they're in second to last. I think with Lou Lamoriello, there's definitely more hope. But yeah, they have 2 good prospects in Ritchie and Eisman, but outside of that, not that much. A lot of mediocre long-term contracts that are going to drag down this team. Not good, not good. Predators 30. They have a shit ton of picks this year in an okay prospect pool, but yeah, similarly to the Penguins and the Islanders, an old core. Kraken. People are low on the Kraken. I'm also pretty low on the Kraken when you see mine. 29th does make sense, even though they have some young, exciting players. With Ron Francis getting the promotion, Jason Botterill as your general manager, the former Buffalo Sabres general manager. And based on what they did in free agency last year, you cannot really trust Ron Francis's ability to evaluate talent. The Boston Bruins, 28th. Makes sense. It's going to be really hard to retool this team back into a contender. Not impossible, but you're going to need to get some breaks. It could go really bad in the sense that Jeremy Swayman might just never recover. Charlie McAvoy, we don't know after that freak kind of injury that was caused by the U.S. medical staff. Canucks, 27th. By the way, I got this on Reddit, as you can see, credited the Reddit user. They're in a really bad spot. You don't know how long Quinn Hughes is even going to be in Vancouver anymore, so that's understandable. Thatcher Demko, no clue what he's going to look like in the future. Lost JT Miller. New York Rangers at 26. When you look at that forward core and their age, makes perfect sense in my opinion. Then the Buffalo Sabres. I'm going to be higher on the Buffalo Sabres. Maybe I'm stupid for being higher on the Buffalo Sabres, but at least they still have some young hope. Don't expect them to be a playoff team this season or next, but if they do have some pieces where they could maybe put it together, but we've been saying that for the last 3 to 4 years, haven't we? Next up, 17 through 24. The Flyers, yeah, if they could give Michkov, if they jump in the lottery and get a top 2 pick, I think that they fly up spots because they need that second star from Matvei Michkov, but right now it's understandable having them 24th. The Flames, similar thought process here. They're not going to get a high pick this year, at best, 5th or 6th they can jump to. So they're kind of destined towards mediocrity. Tampa Bay Lightning, yeah, after losing to Florida in 5 games, it's not looking too hot. Also, again, this was not including this season just because like the season's basically over. So yeah, Lightning, they easily could be over the next decade a bottom 5 team, and you wouldn't be that surprised if they have like 3 more years with this core and then kind of have to blow it up. So that's a little bit concerning. The St. Louis, the Wings are up next. Lightning and Wings next to each other. Yeah, Wings, there just hasn't been enough actual on-ice success. You thought maybe after last season they take a step. They took a step back, and yeah, not looking too encouraging for the Wings. Still should be a playoff team a couple of times. I think we can agree on that. St. Louis Blues, I expected them to be a little bit higher. I don't personally have them that much higher, but considering they made the playoffs, considering they got some good ads in Dylan Holloway and Broberg, I do trust their management group. It's just going to be tough to potentially get those superstar players like we've talked about before. If Robert Thomas is going to be their best player over the next decade, there's probably not going to be a shit ton of success. And I love Robert Thomas, but he is not a superstar. LA Kings at 19. It's understandable, man. They have like 3 different cores. They have like a under 25 core. They have like Fiala and Kempe who are like 29, 30. And then they got Doughty and Kopitar. Like, it's just like all above average cores, but will will like a Byfield take a huge step and get this team into being an actual, well, I thought maybe this year they could actually go on a deep run, but that might not happen heading into down 3-2. But yeah, I would have them over the Vegas Golden Knights, though, who are pretty old, but Vegas' management group just seems to continue to find a way to extend this core. I don't know how they'll do it in 5 years with guys like Jack Eichel and Theodore, their current younger guys getting up there in age, but I mean, anything's possible with Vegas. Then the Winnipeg Jets, 17th, understandable. Their core is a little bit old, but unlike Vegas, they do have a very strong prospect pool right now. They should definitely be a high-level team for another 3 years, I'd say. It might get dicey after that, but I don't think that they'll like completely bottom out, especially considering they're in Winnipeg, where you really can't bottom out because of the financials. 9 through 16, the Toronto Maple Leafs check in at 16th. It's understandable. I mean, their core is now in their late 20s for the most part. Matthew Knies maybe inspires you a little bit, where they can extend it maybe by a year or two if he really hits star status. Morgan Riley's like 30. John Tavares is 34. So I understand that, even though the next 3 to 4 years, you're definitely taking them over the Utah Hockey Club, Jackets, Hawks, Ducks, Senators probably as well. Utah Hockey Club, 15. I think I'm a little bit higher in my rankings. I really like this team, what they're building, and they have a shit ton of cap space to do a bunch this offseason. The Columbus Blue Jackets are a little bit of an interesting one. I think if you told me Caden Lindstrom is going to be healthy and his development is going to go the way that I think it is, they should be a couple spots up. But if he doesn't hit, not saying he has to hit, but that's like the big wild card where they could really range, because he could be genuinely a 40-goal, 50-assist, 90-point monster playing with someone like Adam Fantilli. But they have Fantilli. They have Johnson, who took big steps. Marchenko's a stud. So 14, I think, is about fair. 13, people pretty low on the Chicago Blackhawks rebuild. It's really going to come down to they could jump some spots if they get a top 2 pick, in my opinion. If they get either Misa, or would they even take Schaefer because they have so many defensemen? But like, if they get the 4th overall pick, I think that's fair at 13th. I'd probably move them up if they end up getting a top 2 pick. Washington's an interesting situation, similarly to Los Angeles, but they were better this season. They have the older guys of Ovechkin and Carlson. They have that middle-aged guys like Strome. Chicken's only 26, but PLD as well. And then they have this prospect pool of guys like Crystal, like Leonard, Hudson, other Protas. They have Protas and McMichael as well, so I understand why they're ahead of the LA Kings. They should just be a highly, decently competitive team the next decade. I know it's kind of tough to say, will they be a true contender? Because this year they were the best team in the Eastern Conference during the regular season, but that's maybe the one question that you have, that as Ovechkin starts to regress, they will have some guys replacing him, but will they be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference? I don't fully know yet. The Anaheim Ducks, I'm very high in the Anaheim Ducks going forward. The Florida Panthers, understandable. I think they're going to have five more years of true contention. After that, they probably will need a rebuild. Matthew Tkachuk's like one of their younger guys in the core, and he's like 27 years old at this point. Then the Ottawa Senators. You guys are high on the Ottawa Senators. I'm actually not as high when looking at them. They are very young. I'll explain it more when I have them listed. I don't want to ruin my entire list. And then your 1 through 8. You got the Devils in 8th place. Yeah, this time 2 years ago, they were top 3 across the board, but after missing the playoffs, and then this season, Jack Hughes getting hurt again. There's big question marks about Jack Hughes and Luke Hughes' availability, on top of like Simone Nemec not really panning out exactly like we thought. The Minnesota Wild, rightfully so, top 8. I think they're a little bit higher on mine when looking at them, finally getting that Suter and Parise money off the books, on top of still having a top 5 prospect pool in hockey, while Kaprizov, Boldy, Joel Eriksson, Faber are not old by any stretch. The Hurricanes, interesting placement in my opinion. I have a decently interesting take on them. The Colorado Avalanche 5th. That's also surprising in my opinion, because they went so aggressive this season that although they do have Makar and McKinnon's 29 years old. Makar is 26 years old at this point, where the next decade, they'll probably have I don't expect those guys to leave the team, but around them, it might not. It might slowly start to regress because they've been so aggressive. The Edmonton Oilers, I understand this logic. McDavid, Draisaitl should be high-end top 5 players in the NHL for at least the next 6 to 7 seasons. What they will put around them, especially with how old their core is getting, that is to be determined. I understand if you have them much lower, but they should at least win one goddamn Stanley Cup. And then the San Jose Sharks 3rd. Interesting placement, in my opinion, with that. They haven't done anything in the standings-wise. I know that they have a lot of exciting young players and a top 3 pick coming this year. Montreal 2nd makes perfect sense. Made the playoffs this year. Going to have a full season of this guy next year, as well as still having a very good prospect pool and having a lot of guys on team-friendly deals. And then Dallas, number 1. Also makes all the sense in the world when looking at the fact that They're a high-level contender right now, up 3-2 against Colorado without two of their best players, and they're decently young. Yes, the Rantanen, they would be a no-doubt number one before the Rantanen. Not saying the Rantanen is bad, but having Stankoven in those first-round picks. But even with that, their next 7 years should be high-level contention without a doubt. And even after that, Wyatt Johnston's still going to be like 31 years old. Those other guys are going to be like 33, 34. Now let's go over to mine. I have the Vancouver Canucks in dead last. I know that might be crazy, but I just think that they're in such a weird position where I think they're going to be like an 88-point team the next 2 years, and then Quinn Hughes is going to leave, and then they're going to enter a rebuild. Like, I could be completely wrong because, again, they do have the best defenseman in the NHL. If they have competent management, they shouldn't be this bad. But with everything I'm seeing from Rutherford recently, like, I have no faith. I have absolutely no faith for the Vancouver Canucks. So, yeah, you give me 2 to 3 more seasons of just mediocrity unless Pettersson turns it around, then probably a rebuild. And once Quinn Hughes says, I'm going to go play in New Jersey. Rutherford said it himself. He wants to play with his brothers. And so, yeah, that's why I have Vancouver 32nd. Seattle, it's just Ron Francis. I don't trust this guy. It's maybe a bold pick because, again, they do have exciting U23 pieces coming up. The Nashville Predators, yeah, they're going to need a decently deep rebuild relatively soon, and I think Barry Trotz knows that. My Islanders, I'm having faith that maybe they stink the next 2 years and then can kind of build off that. Penguins, I have 28th, though, because I think that they have a good vision in terms of just sucking the next 2 to 3 years. If they land one out of the next 3, whether it's McKenna, DuPont, Schultz, that looks like he's insane playing for Regina next season. If they can land one of those guys, I'm not saying that Sidney Crosby 2.0, but they were in the Cup final like 3 seasons after Sidney Crosby was drafted. So like they at least have like a vision compared to these bottom 4 teams below them that are kind of like half-assing it. You're definitely cooked in the next 4 years, but I think by that year 8, they could be a high-level team. The Flames, yeah, they're just kind of stuck in mediocrity. Rangers, I had them exactly where you had them. Lightning, I think that they have 2 to 3 more years left with this core. Could win a Stanley Cup still, I feel, but it's not looking good after back-to-back years of losing to Florida. Then 24 to 17. Any shockers here? I'm lower on the Knights again. I'll probably be wrong because I probably said that they weren't going to have much longer of a window back in like 2022, and they have. The Flyers, I have a couple spots higher than you guys. I think Red Wings, I have dead on. Blues, I have the Sabres much higher. I still think that like they have Dahlin, they have Thompson, they have some exciting young guys. They just need better management, and I think that they can be kind of a playoff team or make the playoffs 5 out of the 6 seasons over the next decade. I don't know if they'll ever get to like contending status, but I think that they could be a decent team. Moving on to 9 through 16. My bad. I'm lower on the Senators. I like their team. They locked up Sanderson and Stützle, fantastic contracts. Just they don't really have anything else in the prospect pool to get them to that next level. I'm not a big believer of Carter Yakimchuk. Outside of him, there's really nothing. I talked about it in my rebuild review. Feel free to go watch that. Still think that they have a very bright next decade. Still think they'll be a playoff team 7 or 8 seasons out of this. But in terms of being on the same level as Montreal, being on the same level as some teams in the Eastern Conference, I'm not quite as confident. Actually, I have them as one of the higher teams in the Eastern Conference. But you get what I'm saying. Like, it's a good core, but I don't know if they're going to have that next year at least. Utah, I'm very high on. Gunther, already locked up. They're cheap. Cooley, truly turning into a number 1 center right before our eyes. And Clayton Keller is still only like 27, 28 years old and an absolute stud. He's 27. The Hawks, I actually only had him 1 spot higher than you guys. I could put him a couple spots higher. No, I'm going to stick by 12. The Ducks I'm very high on. Colorado, as I talked about with your placement, they just traded so much. They don't have anything, and they don't have a lot of picks. They don't have a shit prospect pool at this point after trading guys like Richie and Zellers, where I think that they're probably going to have another high-level contention of like 3-4 years with this core. Probably going to be a playoff team after that, but I'm not so confident that Makar and McKinnon at age 30 and 35 are going to be able to propel this team into high-level contention. I'm just a little bit out on the Avalanche at this point. Still have them number 10. I'm not saying they're going to suck for the next decade. Washington Capitals number 9, as long as 2 of Leonard, Cole Hudson, Protas, Protas and Crystal, like if 2 of those guys hit to a decent degree, this team looks to be a consistent playoff team in the Eastern Conference for the next decade. Moving on to my 1 through 8. Okay, here it is in all its glory. My 1 through 8. I do have the same top 2 as you guys, as we talked about before. Stars should be loaded for a while. Canadians, just too many good young guys on that team and already making the playoffs. I have Carolina number 3. When looking at them, they are not only a decently competitive team, high-level competitive team, maybe not this year will be their Stanley Cup run, but so much money opening up this offseason where I think they're going to land some top guys, and they still have a very good prospect pool. Jarvis is still, 22 years old, 23 years old, 23 years old at this point, as well as Svechnikov's not that old. Nikki Shin hopefully will be at the NHL level next season. Bradley Nadeau's a stud. Jackson Blake, Nikita Artemanov that they got in the draft. They have just been kind of the blueprint, although it hasn't translated to even making a Stanley Cup final in terms of drafting, developing guys. It has been so impressive. So although Aho, 28 years old, Slavin, 30 years old, I trust Eric Tulsky. I trust Rod Brindamore. As a result, they check in at number 3. The Wild, talked about it before. They're already a decently high playoff team. When healthy, they were great this year, and they're having $12 million come off the books this summer in terms of buyout money and are still pretty damn young. The Sharks, you guys had them at 3. I can't quite go that far when they're still the worst team in the NHL. They still have to have a lot of breaks go right for them. Askarov, I like him a lot. Is he a surefire? No doubt. Goalie prospect? No, I'm not sure. He's still a top 3 goalie prospect, but we got to see it at the NHL level. Dickinson, I'm not sure, is a franchise defenseman. I know that they could get Schaefer in the draft, but that's also, they're set it forward. The rest is still up in the air, and I know that they're going to stink for the next 2 to 3 years, most likely. So I don't think you can have them top 3 ahead of especially the Hurricanes and the Wild. The Panthers, I know I'm getting 5 more years of high true level contention. The Oilers, kind of same thing there, and I don't see Draisaitl and McDavid going anywhere. And the New Jersey Devils, although it has maybe been a disappointing the last 2 years relative to what we thought after the 2023 season, the future is still extremely bright. A lot of their guys, Hughes, Bratt, and even Heischer has some years left on his deal, locked up at great value. As long as they can figure out that forward core depth, which I talked about in a video yesterday, go check that out. They should be a high-level team next year and a high-level team for the next 4 years at least, probably another 6 or 7 years. So, yeah, that is my personal ranking. I'm going to show you the actual results now so you know that I am not lying. Here it is. This is your guys' results. We'll go through it. Sabres that low. What's wrong with you guys? Bang, bang. Maybe something did change in the last 15 minutes when looking at it because I've probably got more responses, but I think that this is damn accurate. Let me know in the comments. What do you think? Do you think this was a fun exercise? What other kind of Google Forms do you guys want to try to do? I love to get you guys involved and hear your opinions on these kind of things. I did go through the data and made sure if some people didn't fully fill out the form or fully put 1s and 5s all across the board, or some teams 1s, some teams 5s. I purged the data to a degree to make it respectable, just so there's no outliers. I'll be seeing the next one. Peace.